The film begins with a man, Walter, walking through a city celebration. But it is clearly visible from his face that he is very nervous, as if someone is following him, and his fear was absolutely justified because we see that many people are staring at him with very evil eyes. Walter's only purpose while walking is to put the envelope in his pocket into the postbox. But as soon as he completes his work and comes out on the road, suddenly a car comes at high speed and hits him, due to which he dies on the spot. The man driving the car first makes sure that Walter is dead and then calmly leaves the scene. On the other hand, the story takes us to a man named James. James is a senior officer in the Navy, and we see him giving his students extremely tough underwater training. But his students, despite being young, don't even reach near his level. Whereas looking at James, it seems that he is much older. Meanwhile, James receives a phone call informing him of his father's death. Then we learn that the man Walter was his and killed by the car was James's father. James then informs his wife of his father's death. Then his wife asks him whether he has told his brother about this or not. James replies that her brother doesn't answer her calls, and she knows very well that the two brothers haven't spoken to each other for years and their relationship is very bad. Hearing this, his wife says, "No matter what, your brother has the right to know that his father has died." James, hearing her, simply says, Okay, I'll tell him." Next we go to James' brother Johnny. Johnny returns home on his motorcycle. But as soon as he reaches home, he finds out that his girlfriend Valentina is going to leave him. Johnny asks in surprise, "What happened? Why are you so angry?" Valentina angrily says, "What am I angry about? Now you have come and asked, you always leave me alone, and whenever I talk to you, you don't even listen to me." Johnny tries to convince her and says, "Baby, I am right here. Sorry. Tell me, what do you want to say? I totally hear you." Valentina says, "Well then tell me, what day is it today?" Johnny immediately replies that today is Wednesday. Valentina then says, "And today is my birthday." Hearing this, Johnny realizes his mistake and starts apologizing to her again and again. Valentina smiles first. Then she gives him a kiss, but the next moment she slaps him hard on the cheek. Then she says, "By the way, today is Friday, not Wednesday." She then picks up her luggage and bag and leaves, leaving Johnny behind. Inside the house, we see some pictures of Johnny. One photo is of his childhood in which he is seen with his mother, and the other photo is with his girlfriend Valentina. Meanwhile, Johnny receives a phone call. The caller is James' wife, and this is probably the first time she's speaking directly to Johnny. She informs Johnny of his father's death. Hearing this, Johnny says coldly, "Well, I thought he had died many years ago." She replies, "No, he died yesterday. The funeral is tomorrow and you should be with your brother at such a time." Johnny immediately replied, "Couldn't James have called me himself to tell me these two things?" She says, "Do you know how complicated the situation is between you and him? There have been many fights and conflicts between you two." Johnny replies with a slight smile, "You are talking as if you are a psychologist." At the same time, something happens to Johnny that he doesn't expect at all. While he is in the bathroom, suddenly 3 men enter his house and surround him. They tell him to listen to us carefully. "We're from the Yakuza gang." Johnny, remaining completely calm, says, "Okay, tell me." Then he tells that his father had sent a very important parcel for him and now he wants that parcel. If he did not give it to them, the consequence would not be good for him. Johnny replies, "First of all, I didn't receive any parcel. And secondly, you people have entered my house and are threatening me. I am a police officer, so I have full authority to arrest you." After this, a battle starts between the both sides. Johnny confronts all 3 attackers one by one. First he fight one, then the second, and then the third. In no time, the entire house become a battlefield. Many household items also get damaged during the fight. Then, due to an attacker, her mother's pictures falls down, which makes Johnny even more angry. Eventually, after a long and arduous battle, Johnny manages to overpower all 3 attackers. The story then moves to his father's funeral. This funeral takes place on the same island where James and Johnny's family originally lived. There, James notices that some people from the Yakuza gang are sitting at a distance and keeping an eye on them. Not only this, people of a local gang were also keeping an eye on their every activity from a distance. Meanwhile, James's cousin, who lived on the same island, asks him where Johnny is. James replies, "Do you really think Johnny will come here? No way. He is not going to come." She says, "But I have a feeling that he will definitely come." James smiles and says, I know him very well. He's my brother. Give up hope of him coming. But before James can even finish his sentence, everyone's attention falls on Johnny, who has already arrived. Seeing this, his cousin laughs and says, "It seems you don't know your brother as well as you think. Look, he's here." Then she runs to Johnny and welcomes him with a hug. James's wife also meets him and introduces him to her son and daughter. Just then, Johnny's little niece sees him and says, "You look very handsome and good." Johnny smiles and replies, "I'm definitely more handsome than your father." The girl laughs and asks, "Can I fix your hair?" Johnny immediately replies, "No, not at all." But shortly after, Johnny and James start taunting each other again. They constantly tease each other, forgetting that they are standing at their father's funeral. Seeing this, the person conducting the funeral prayers is stunned. He looks at them angrily and scolds them. At that moment, their uncle, who was once the leader of the island, arrives and performs the remaining funeral rites. Then, some people board a boat carrying their father's ashes to be immersed in the sea. James then takes his brother to the old house where they lived on the island as children, the same house that belonged to their father. Seeing the house, Johnny is surprised and asks, "What's the matter? You've still kept this house intact." James replies, "Yes, and I paid all the installments." A few hours later, the entire family sits together and begins eating lunch. During the meal, Johnny suddenly tells James, "Our father's death wasn't normal. It wasn't a simple road accident. He was murdered." Hearing this, James becomes enraged and says, "Is everything a conspiracy for you? Even at the time of Mother's death, you were saying she was murdered, and because of that, we all had to endure so much trouble." Then James tells him, "Come out. Let's go and talk." They leave the house and start talking alone. James angrily says, "Stop it, Johnny. Father died in a road accident. Don't make a fuss about it again." Then he adds, By the way, when did you start worrying so much about him? You never cared about him. You couldn't even find Mother's murderers. And now you're saying Father was murdered too." Johnny replies, "You always do this. You never listen to me. You have a beautiful wife and children, so you have a lot to lose, and you're afraid of everything." Then he turns serious and says, "But this time I'm not wrong. James, our father really was murdered." With that, Johnny leaves. James watches him go, deeply upset and angry. Then Johnny goes to a bar and sits down for a drink, while a large man approaches him and says, "My boss wants to meet you." Johnny replies without looking at him, "Sorry, I don't have time for you right now, and not for your boss." But Johnny doesn't know that his drink has already been drugged. The drug takes effect shortly after, and Johnny collapses unconscious. They then pick him up and take him straight to their boss. Upon arriving, they discover Johnny has a long-standing feud with the gang. He once suspected the gang was responsible for his mother's death. Because of this, he had beaten up several members of the gang in the past, severely injuring several of them. That's why the gang is still angry with him. The gang leader tells Johnny, "Listen carefully. You only have 1 week. Leave this island." Johnny laughs and replies, "What? I'm from this island. I'll only leave when I feel like it. If you send your men after me, I'll cut them into pieces and stuff them into bags. Yes, it'll be hard to find a bag the size of this fat guy." Hearing this, tension fills the room. The gang leader signals to his men, and they capture Johnny. Then the chief makes a special mark on his neck and says, "Listen, Johnny. This mark means you're under my protection for the next week. But if you're seen on this island after a week, we'll drown you in the sea. Understood?" Johnny smiles and replies, "I don't like water much, but okay, as you say." Meanwhile, James goes to the police station where his father worked, because his father was a police officer. There he asks his father's boss, Renard, for details about his father's accident. Renard tells him there's not much information, and the whole case appears to be just a road accident, with the culprit fleeing the scene. James then asks, "Did you guys find out anything about the car that hit my father?" Renard replies, "No, believe me, not a single camera was working on the road where your father was hit." James says, "Okay, can you give me his personal belongings that he had with him at the time of the accident?" Renard says, "Yes, absolutely." He gives him all his father's belongings. Then he says, "James, can I tell you somethings? Your father may have had a run-in with some very dangerous people, so I advise you to be careful and don't try to get involved with them." James replies, "You don't know me. If I find out this wasn't just an accident, then those dangerous people you're talking about should be afraid of me. Meanwhile, Johnny goes to his father's apartment and begins searching for any clues that could lead him to his father's killers. But despite his extensive search, he finds no specific clues. Just then, he realizes someone has entered the apartment. As soon as the person inside sees Johnny, he immediately tries to escape. But the overweight man suddenly starts performing acrobatics as if he were Jackie Chan. Johnny runs after him, saying, "Wait a minute, fat Jackie Chan. I'll catch you." Finally, Johnny sets a trap for him. One punches him hard in the nose and manages to capture him. He leaves. It's revealed that the young man's name is Pika, and he used to be Walter's personal assistant. Walter used to have him do all sorts of dirty work, like taking compromising photos of people or collecting personal information about certain individuals. Johnny asks him if he knows who killed his father. Pika replies, "I don't know. Your father had a lot of enemies, because the things he did weren't exactly clean." Meanwhile, on the other side, we see James go to the spot where his father was hit by a car and died. He looks around carefully and sees a roadside shop with a camera mounted on it, facing the exact spot where the accident occurred. James goes into the shop, takes money from his pocket, and tells the man there, "Listen, I want to see a recording of a specific day when an accident occurred." With that, he places the $300 on the table. Just then, another man comes in and says, "We won't help you. Get out of here and go. Take the money with you." James says with a smile, "Do you guys think this money is for the video? No, I'll get the video for free. The $300 is to cover the damage this place is about to suffer." The story then returns to Johnny, who are searching the house again. By chance, Johnny finds a map his father had hidden inside his skateboard. This map was of the new complex that was to be built on the island where their family originally lived. Just then, they realize someone else has entered the house. When they turn around, they realize it's James. Johnny smiles and says, "Wow, you're welcome here. What are you doing here?" James replies, "I think you were right this time." Johnny laughs and says, Yes, I already told you." James says, "Okay, let's leave that aside. I assume you were right. And listen, I found the camera footage that recorded our father's accident." When they watch the video, they realize this wasn't a simple accident. The driver didn't try to save them or brake. He only braked after their father had already been run over and then drove away. This makes them both convinced that their father was murdered. They then begin searching for the car that hit their father. But as they get into their car and talk to each other, trying to piece together the clues, another car suddenly pulls up and hits theirs. It's soon revealed that the attackers are members of a Yakuza gang. They open fire on them as soon as they arrive, and Johnny and James return fire. A fierce gunfight ensues. Johnny jumps out of the car to save his life, leaving his brother behind, but only so that he can take a much better position to attack them. After a prolonged exchange of fire, James jumps out of his car and reaches the enemy car. Just then, Johnny is caught in the crossfire. He shouts, "Get away from that car. I'm gonna blow it up." James immediately jumps away and goes to blow up Johnny's car. James angrily exclaims, "What have you done? Damn you! You ruined my car too." Johnny replies, "Hey, I saved your life and I didn't even go near your car. I blew up theirs." But before Johnny can even finish his sentence, James's car also explodes. Then both arrive at the police station. There, Renee tells them, "I've never seen such devastation on this island in my entire life. You've reduced half the people to charred corpses, and on top of that, James, this time you brought your brother along." Johnny then replies, "I'm a police officer too." Hearing this, Renee laughs sarcastically and says, "But your boss has a different opinion. You've been suspended with pay." James is shocked. Renee continues, "Because you used excessive force." Then Johnny brazenly says, "I'm a police officer. What? I mean, my salary is still coming." James glares at him and says, "No, you're kidding now." Renee takes out her blood pressure medicines, takes it, and tells them to get out of here and never show up again. Meanwhile, James hands Renee the video recording of the incident. The both of them sit with Nawi. This is because Nawi works for his uncle, the mayor. Together, they try to understand what's going on, and Johnny discovers from a map he found in his father's apartment that it's a plan for a casino he plans to build on the island. Johnny asks, "How? We already have this ban on casinos. So how are they planning to build a casino here, and who will build it?" They examine the map again carefully and, From the information on it, discover that the person responsible is Marcus. Now he says, what, Marcus? He's a very famous businessman here. He's always involved in social work and charity. So why would he want to build a casino? James asks, and Johnny tells him that's our job now, to find out what's really going on behind that man. They then leave. The next morning, Johnny wakes to find his niece braiding his hair. Johnny tells her, take care of yourself. I have lice in my head that bite. Then, he and his brother go downstairs and reach the site where the gambling house was supposedly built. But when they arrive, they find nothing, no machinery, no wood, no construction materials, and no sign of any work in progress. This means the gambling house existed only on paper, and its construction had not yet been officially approved. Just then, they receive a call from Debtor, the head of the detective department. He informs them that he has found the car that hit their father. Later, it turns out that the car was found submerged, with the body of the mayor's accountant inside. It also turns out that the car belonged to Marcus's company, and that Marcus was the businessman who wanted to build a gambling house. Just then, Pika tells them, listen, Marcus is hosting a charity party today which start in about 4 hours. Why don't you both come with me? I'll get you inside. Maybe you'll find some clues there. He then takes them to the party. They act as bartenders serving drinks to the guests. But Johnny was lost in his own world. He was constantly drinking and flirting with almost every girl. James, on the other hand, was working with complete seriousness. He was clearing plates and his eyes were constantly darting around, paying attention to every activity. Meanwhile, Johnny notices a woman and begins to like her. But later, it turns out that the woman is none other than Marcus's wife. When Johnny introduces himself and gives his full name, she is surprised and asks, was your father Walter? Johnny says, yes. Did you know him? She replies, yes, of course, but wait, what? Has anything happened to him? Johnny says he's dead. Hearing this, she says, actually, I hired him as a private detective to keep an eye on my husband because he was about to divorce me, and I wanted to find some evidence against him that would make the divorce process easier for me. Then she tells Johnny, we can't talk openly here. Meet me tomorrow in the upper suite of my hotel. After this, she tells Johnny the name of the hotel. Both Johnny and James are shocked because Marcus himself sends his men to call them. When they go to meet him, Marcus tells them, well, it's never happened before that someone has barged into my party without an invitation. To be honest, my parties are quite boring because they're charity parties. So, can I know why you both came here uninvited? They reply, because the food is good and the drinks are free. Marcus smiles and says, well, would you guys introduce yourselves? James says, I'm James, and this is my brother Johnny. We're both Walter's sons, who had a few children. The murder happened a long time ago. Hearing this, Marcus says, actually, I hired your father for a private investigation. I asked him to keep an eye on my wife because I suspected she was cheating on me. But later I found out she wasn't cheating on me, and this all happened before her death. Then he says, actually, I thought I took this matter too seriously. Johnny says, look, there's no need to beat around the bush. You've known us since we arrived, and that's why you called us here to find out what we know and why we're here. Marcus replies, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Are you insinuating that I had something to do with your father's death? Johnny says, no, I'm not insinuating. I'm directly accusing you of having him killed. Hearing this, James tells Johnny to calm down a bit, but Johnny doesn't calm down at all. He jumps straight onto Marcus's desk. He picks up an old bomb lying there. Marcus immediately says, be careful, that bomb is from World War I. Please put it back in its place. But Johnny carelessly throws it back at him. Then he says, listen, both of you, I think our meeting ends here. Goodbye. After they leave, Marcus picks up a photo of his wife. He looks at it and says, what have you done? The next day, Johnny goes to the hotel where Marcus's wife's staying. But as he arrives, he sees a huge crowd gathered below. This makes Johnny realize something is wrong. When he pushes through the crowd, he is shocked to see Marcus's wife lying dead from above. This scene enrages Johnny. He immediately rushes to Marcus's house and begins beating his men to get to him. Unfortunately, Marcus's men are too numerous, and Johnny finally overpowers Johnny. Let's do it. Johnny then tells Marcus, you killed your wife. Marcus calmly replies, I don't know what you're talking about. He then orders his men to call the police and hand over to them. Johnny is locked up in the police station. His uncle comes to meet him there and says, "I've convinced Marcus to withdraw the complaint." He then sits down next to Johnny and says, "Your father had everything. A wife who loved him and 2 wonderful sons. But there was a darkness inside him that ruined every good thing in his life." He then continues, "And Johnny, you're just like your father. But you have something your father didn't have. You have a brother, and that applies to your brother too. He is like his father, but he also has a brother, and that brother is you." Johnny then leaves the police station. As he emerges, he sees James waiting for him. James walks behind him and angrily says, "What have you done? And what do you have to do with Marcus's wife? What do we have to do with her?" Johnny replies, "Shut up now. This isn't the time to talk." But James doesn't let up and grabs him by force. This infuriates Johnny, and he punches James. And then, without warning, a fight breaks out between the 2 brothers. It's a way of resolving their differences, as they both harbored a lot of resentment and grievance against each other. Almost, my friend, if these 2 had put the same effort into finding the killer, they might have caught him by now. After a good bit of verbal abuse, they finally start talking. Johnny tells James, "You abandoned me when I needed you most. You should have been there for me when my mother died. But you sent me far away." James replies, "What did you want me to do? You caused a lot of trouble after your mother's death. The gang you helped with, they beat and injured you. They were hell-bent on killing you. I had no choice but to send you far away to save you from them." Johnny says, "You don't understand what was going on inside me. I saw my mother die before my eyes. Her eyes were looking at me, and ever since, I've blamed myself for not being able to save her. I couldn't even catch her murderer. You don't know what was going on inside me at that moment." Hearing this, James falls silent. Then he sits down next to Johnny and says, "I know, I disappointed you and what I did was wrong, but I did it all to protect you. I had no other choice." This was the first time James apologized to Johnny. Johnny says softly, "To this day, I don't know who killed my mother, and now someone has killed my father. I want to get justice for at least one of them. I can't afford to fail on both times." James turns to him. Seeing this, he says, "You're not alone anymore. I'm with you." Johnny says with a slight smile, "I'm not going to lie. Your hand is still very heavy, even though you're old now." Hearing this, both of them smile slightly, and finally, after a long time, both brothers reconcile. They both return home, and upon arriving, James's wife scolds both of them thoroughly. Meanwhile, Johnny gets a call from his girlfriend Valentina. She asks him, "Where are you? I came back home, and I couldn't find you anywhere. And yes, there were so many messages for you asking about your whereabouts. Parcel has arrived." Johnny asks what is inside that parcel. Valentina replies, "How do I know? I'll open your things and take a look." Johnny says, "Well, take a look and tell me what's inside it." Then Valentina explains there's a flash drive inside. Johnny immediately says, "Great, listen, pick your bags. Come here and bring the flash drive with you." When Valentina arrives, Johnny, James and Pika are already waiting for her. Upon seeing her, James and Pika jokingly say, "Wow, your taste is amazing, but I don't understand one thing. How did you like Johnny?" Valentina greets everyone with a smile. Then she gives Johnny the flash drive. Everyone then gets into the car. Throughout the journey, Johnny tries to woo and flirt with Valentina, but she ignores him. Meanwhile, Pika is about to insert the flash drive into his laptop and view the data inside. Suddenly, a helicopter attacks them, causing a huge commotion. Valentina immediately tells James to leave and takes the driver's seat herself. Meanwhile, James and Johnny try to escape from the helicopter. After a while, the helicopter retreats, but instead, attackers on motorcycles arrives. Everyone is amazed by Valentina's driving. She performs such a superb performance that she hits one of the attackers, leaving him severely injured. Then the helicopter returns. But this time, James manages to escape in his own way. However, by the time the chase is over, their car is also badly damaged. And the biggest problem is that the car belonged to James's wife. This makes James more afraid of his wife's anger than of his own. However, Pika opens the files on the flash drive. When they all look at the files, they discover that Marcus had secretly transferred money to the mayor's account, a sum of almost $12 million. The most significant thing is that the mayor was none other than James and Johnny's uncle. The purpose of this money was to get the mayor to approve the construction of a casino that was to be built on the island. James and Johnny are utterly shocked by this. Meanwhile, Naui goes to her uncle to show him the plans for the casino. Johnny found it in his father's apartment. She tells him that a businessman named Marcus wants to build this on the island. Uncle, surprised, says, "How is that possible? I've already banned such things." Then he says, "Show me that map. I'll keep it with me." With that, he takes the map and leaves. Meanwhile, Johnny and James begin piecing together all the clues. James says, "The accountant whose body we found in the sunken car was Uncle's accountant. Surely, our father must have reached that accountant. He must have forced him to put all the information about these dirty transactions on that flash drive he mailed you." James continues, "Uncle must have found out that father had all this information on the flash drive. So he must have immediately informed Marcus. Then Marcus sent his Yakuza gang after them to eliminate them, and later they killed the accountant." All the clues and events and the whole picture began to crystallize. When they arrived home in Balls Los, James was stunned to find his wife kidnapped. His children were still at home. James's son then told his father, "I tried to save mommy, but I couldn't. I couldn't protect her." Hearing this, Johnny's face changed, as he realized his nephew was feeling the same pain he had been carrying for years. The pain of not being able to save his mother. This alone ignited a fire within Johnny. He vowed to make Marcus and everyone associated with him pay. Without delay, he and James prepared themselves and headed straight for Marcus's house. First, they began eliminating his men one by one, capturing them individually. One of these foolish men shot and killed him. He fired a shot at the bulletproof glass. When the bullet had no effect, he opened the window himself. That was it. James shot him straight through the head. Meanwhile, Marcus, sensing danger, dispatched the Yakuza gang members to attack them. But they encountered James. James trapped them in a narrow corridor and then killed each one by one, sparing no one. Johnny then arrived, having already dealt with a few others outside. He told James to stop. The poor men must be tired of being killed. Then they reached the place where James' wife and her cousin were being held hostage. But Marcus had already escaped. After they freed the both women, James's wife told him, "Listen, you and Johnny should go and tell Marcus that he's taken on the wrong family and that this time he must finish them off." She then assured him that he needn't worry about them. Now Johnny then sets off in pursuit of Marcus, while James faces off against the leader of the Yakuza gang. Two separate battles were now underway. One between Johnny and Marcus, and the other between James and the leader of the Yakuza gang. Marcus proved to be much stronger. He grabbed Johnny and began tossing him around like a carpet, nearly ramming his face into the ground. The Yakuza leader, meanwhile, was also trying to overpower James. But James killed him in a horrific manner, in a particularly dangerous location. In fact, he left no part of his body unscathed. But Marcus was still in control. He nearly killed Johnny, but Johnny had a surprise ready for him. He had stole Marcus's old World War bomb and planted it on an oil drum. Just as Marcus was about to shoot Johnny, the drum exploded. The blast threw Johnny into the water, while Marcus' body was still in the water. He was torn to pieces. Johnny started drowning. Just then, James arrived. He pulled him out of the water, saved his life, and hugged him, saying, "I'm with you. Don't worry. I'll always be behind you." The next day, the mayor was arrested. He was charged with 2 counts, attempted murder and bribery. James and Johnny stood there watching. The entire family then gathered for a family reunion. Johnny was approached by the local gang leader, who had previously threatened him to leave the island within a week. Johnny told him, "This is my place, and I'm not leaving." The gang leader replied, Okay. Now I know what you and your brother have done. And be honest, I'm quite pleased with you. First, you've helped this island. And second, you've removed a very dangerous rival from my path. So consider this as a small gift from me. Johnny, that's the name of the man who helped you. He killed his mother. With that, he leaves. Johnny looks at him and says, "How are you, brother?" Then Johnny looks at the paper on which the name of his mother's murderer is written. He hands it to James. James says, "Listen, Johnny, whatever you're going to do, I'm with you." Johnny replies, "That's great, but first, I want us all to sit together as a family, eat, drink, talk and laugh together." The most surprising part was that Johnny told James that he was going to forgive him mother's murderer. After that, he burned the paper on which the murderer's name was written. That, my friend, is where the film ends. If you've gotten this far, it means you liked my summary. Please support me by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. See you in the next video.